Hi, welcome to the channel. My name is Chuck, KK6USY, and this is Ham Radio Ventures. Now, I started to do a video on my steak that I did, the $20 or less steak that I did a video on here recently. I'll put a link in the comment. And then I decided I was going to do like a mailbag. I had a lot of great feedback on what people used for their setups, and I asked for that, and I appreciate everybody that responded to that. So today, instead of doing what I started to do, I'm going to do a mailbag. And we're going to go through some of the questions that I got from my comments. And there's a lot of great ideas out there, guys. There's always a different way of doing it, and I don't have a problem with people letting me know how they do it. So let's go to the mailbag, and then tomorrow I'm going to do the video on the steaks, on all the different types of antenna setups you can do from just that one steak with the two fittings. Let's get going. Okay, first of all, I got a few comments, actually maybe some emails, on how did I get the mirror bracket to set like this. When it comes from the factory, it sets like this. Well, it's pretty simple. Once I tell you, you're gonna wonder why you didn't think of it yourself. Okay, if you look at the bolt pattern, it's a square panel. It's a square bolt panel. So this bracket, all you have to do is take it and flip it sideways, and that's how I got it to work. Pretty simple. At first, I looked at it, I kind of thought the same thing, but after looking at it, I go, "Oh, that might be square, and it should work." So that was how I did that. Like I said, when you look at it now, it's probably pretty easy to you also. Okay, also one of the comments I get said I didn't need a tap here and drill that. I could have done something else, and I'll talk about that in a little bit when we talk about the comments. But yeah, I didn't really have to tap this. I could have just drilled a hole. It didn't need to be tapped. But the reason I did it, if you look here, there's holes in that already, so it was a pretty easy drill. And I also got a comment about a different way of doing this, so you can use like the chameleon impasse, and we'll talk about that also. So let me get situated. I'll get my computer out and we'll read some of the comments. And hey, I love the comments. It's a great way for all of us to learn. So let me get the computer and we'll check it out. All right, hopefully my audio is okay, because it got windy here all of a sudden. So first of all, I got a nice, just a nice comment from Wild Cascadia Radio. Thanks, Wild Cascadia Radio, for the nice comment. But now Joseph J says, I have been using the MFJ 1936 TW and attaching my Wolf River Coil Mini to it with pretty good luck. Works well. I looked at that one. It's kind of the same thing that I did. And if you want to buy a pre-made thing, it's a pretty good deal. A little expensive compared to the steak that I use, but totally a great idea. Same idea, basically, okay? AE1TP, I had to get my glasses. Tom said, a nice video. He's been using the same type of setup. He uses a piece of rebar instead of the steak that I use. So that's another way to go also. He also used that extendable pole that I used in that video also. So it has good results with that also. Jeff says that he uses the mirror mount also on a steel gutter, and that seems to work good for him. So there's another great idea, guys. He has the MFJ coil he uses with that also, so that's a good deal too. Okay, Michael P says that the ground clamps that you use on, and I'll try to get a picture of this and pop it in here for you guys. The ground clamps you can use for doing electrical work would work also, instead of drilling the hole. And yet that's a good idea too. I prefer not to have an extra piece sticking off. I do have the bolt, but the bolt's just super simple. Like I showed you at the beginning there, the holes are already there, and I really didn't need to tap that. I don't know why I did that, tell you the truth. Just because I found the tap, I guess. But his idea will work great also if you don't want to do any drilling, guys. My buddy Colin, I think this is in reference to somebody that didn't think the antenna was very good, but he basically said, physics never changed, Chuck. This will perform as well as any commercial offering. Hopefully folks can see that. And I agree with Colin on that. And Colin's a great, if you haven't seen his, it's MM0OPX. He has a great channel, great antenna builder. Check him out. N0VTY says, I stick to the T-post. He sticks a T-post, and I'll try to get a picture of one of those for you. They're a little bit taller, not quite as portable as an 18-inch. Yeah, they may come in shorter lengths, I don't know, but the ones I've seen are like 3 feet or something like that. He sticks that in the ground. He mounts his 18-foot aluminum vertical on it, and then slaps a 9-to-1 on the bottom of that. And there's another great idea. The only maybe he missed. I was trying to make this more portable, and if you have an 18-foot piece of aluminum, unless you make it in pieces. Trevor C says that he uses a copper tube for the stake in the past. It works fantastic on the beach, and you guys know how verticals work on the beach, right? It's like having a little amplifier hook to it, and he loves that. Tom Cheshire says thank you for the for doing this. He's tried ham sticks and the Wolf River coil, and never could get the SWR readings to where he wanted them. And he still doesn't know how to adjust that coil. Now, I think I responded to him, if I remember right, on the Wolf River coil. If you take your radio and hopefully you can get somewhere near you, you turn it up a little bit and just get off frequency and listen for the noise. And if you're not in a super low noise environment, you can adjust that thing up and down until you hear the loudest noise, and then do your fine adjusting later. So that's a way to adjust it. Otherwise, I've got a high Q screwdriver antenna on my truck, and one time I was out up in the forest trying to do a Parks on the Air, and I did the same thing. I went from one end to the other, and the noise never changed because there was no noise there. I basically had to eventually break out my antenna analyzer. I like to carry one with me, especially if I'm in a truck or something. I've got a little small mini 60 that I can take backpacking. But I adjusted it. What I didn't realize is the first contact I made, the guy almost blew my speakers apart because I had it turned up so loud. So remember to turn your radio volume down once you get set up. See, Mike Miles, he's a regular here. He's just got his Wolf River coil and can't wait to get that thing going. Still waiting for the car in-fed half wave. Yeah, we sold 100 of those already, and we're getting the second 50 out right now. It's hard to keep up. Just like everybody else that sells antennas, you know. It's the supply and demand part is the only thing we have kind of going for us is you get to build it yourself, which you get to learn, which is what we're looking at, trying to teach people. We're not trying to make money off of these. We just put the money back into the next antenna that we're going to come out with, but still, sourcing parts is still a hard part, and that's what other people are having problems with their antennas. JT6188, he says one of the cheap ATU 100s from China tuners would work from 40 to 10. Now, I didn't show it in my video, but I did. I took the piece that I had that chameleon where I did the delta loop, and I took that wire, hooked it to the top of my 17-footer, and then hooked it to a mast. So it was it went up and then it sloped up, and I was very easy to get 40 tuned in. I ended up pulling the 17-footer down a little bit just to get it tuned, just like I did on all the other bands, because I was a little bit long on my wire. Donnie says, I don't have the top bolt, but I use the same method for POTA. I have the connector bolt assembly. Oh, he's had the bolts fail, so he carries extras, which is a good idea, and some paracord. Magnus says, great video. Where can you buy the telescoping 17-foot antenna? MFJ sells those, and also Chameleon Antenna sells one also. I actually think the Chameleon is just a little bit higher quality. There's not a whole lot of difference between the two. And unless the prices went up at Chameleon, I know some of their prices went up here recently, it was cheaper than the MFJ. And I think the last time I looked, I couldn't even find the MFJ in stock anywhere. Okay, Dancing Bear. Now, Dancing Bear says instead, this is thinking right here. Dancing Bear says instead of drilling and tapping a hole, just add another mirror mount. But that's another great way. And what he says is leave the insulator off the second one, then it will work for the Chameleon, because the Chameleon doesn't need that insulation from the ground. Okay, because it's insulated inside the impasse. Mark Doyle says, hey, some more gear would be perfect for the RV, and that's one reason. To tell you the truth, guys, Oops. That is one reason I started looking into like the Wolf River coil and stuff like that, was for my RV, and that's something I can use really easy. I went on a trip to Colorado with my wife, and we were at this one space for like about 4 or 5 days, and I set up the DX Commander. I love the DX Commander. It's a great antenna. I just don't always want to set it up for a couple hours. That's all. That's why I went to this 17 footer. I can get everything, including 40 if I want to. The Smoking 8, nice job, Chuck. He actually went out and bought a mirror mount and the stake right after this video. Now, Mike R says it's a little hard to find, but you can also get 3/8 24 all thread. I've never seen it. I'm sure it's around, and you can use that also instead of. And then you just put the union on top where it screws down. Then you leave the threads. Okay, basically what he's saying, you get the all thread, then you just thread this part on top. Now that'll work for the impasse, but it won't. I mean, you could still, I don't know. Maybe he's talking put the bracket on and have the all thread up here for the chameleon type antennas that don't need the washer there. Okay. Al Allen, he wanted to know if I marinated the steak before I drilled it. It does help sometimes. Okay, Dennis asked, probably a dumb question, and Dennis, no, it's not a dumb question, and there really is no dumb questions. If you don't ask questions, you're never going to learn, right? He wanted to know how I was able to get my SWR to my phone from my meter. My meter was sitting here while I was out in the yard, and I have a little DJI Osmo Action. I had it on a little tripod above the, and I'll try to take a picture of something like this for you guys and throw it in here. And it was just basically Bluetooth to my phone. And it worked good for about that distance. Any farther than that, it really wouldn't work. I learned that working on my motorhome one time when I needed to pull fuses in a place and have my battery hooked up to see if I was losing a draw. Liberty Cave, he's been wondering about this whole setup, and I think he's going to do something similar. He's been working with a lot of stuff like this also. Ron Evans asked if I indicated the length of my radios. I think I did say somewhere. Usually my radios are anywhere from 10 to 15 feet. It's the amount of, the length doesn't really matter the way I'm setting them up. It's more in how much you get on the ground. And for portable, I usually use somewhere around 10 to 15 to 20, something like that. And it seems to work fine. And it's fairly easy to throw out, especially if they're like 10 feet. Pretty easy to throw out. You tape the ends when you wind them up, and then you undo them and just spread them out. I tell you the truth, I've gone out and just kept them taped up. Probably not as good as spreading them out. K2EXE says, pro tip, pour a glass of water on the earth there before you put the stake in. It makes it a little easier to get it in the ground. Yeah, that is the problem with the stake idea. You know, I like the stake better than the little tripod that they use for Wolf River coils. And the reason for that is it's just more sturdy. You don't have to worry about it blowing over usually if you get it in there nice and tight or nice and deep. And but sometimes you just can't get a stake in the ground, and that's when the tripod part will actually work better probably. Ham Radio Live, nice work, Chuck. He has a friend named Tom in the Middle East who uses that MFJ antenna also, the extendable whip. And if you haven't seen Larry's Ham Radio Live, check him out. He has a great channel, does I think every day, almost every day he does a live stream. Flybaby asked, I want to see contacts you make with this. Getting good SWR is one thing, but getting a bandwidth and range is another. And he's right. I did reply to him saying if he wanted to see contacts I'd made with this contact. I did a POTA up on Big Hill, and I had like 85 contacts in like an hour and 15 minutes or something like that. So it works. One of the contacts, most of the contacts were the East Coast, and I was just using 20 that day. And one of the contacts was into France. 100 watts into France. Not too bad. Okay, that was all that I had. So hopefully this is helpful. If you guys are new to this channel, you might just go ahead and subscribe. You can always unsubscribe later if you don't like my content. But if you watch this far and you know what my content is, you'll probably like it. I do a lot of builds on antennas, and I try to save hams money. There are times when you should spend money on antennas and stuff like that. And one of my comments from one of my viewers was, "Thanks for doing I think it was my I think it was my little Yagi that I made, and he says, "Thanks for doing this." He goes, "Antennas are one of the few things that amateur hammer operators can still do on their own versus trying to build radios and stuff like that. That's radio building and stuff like that is above most people's and mine abilities, and, until they actually try to learn that. So hit that like, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, hit all. That way you'll get all my new videos. This is Chuck, KK6USY, for Ham Radio Adventures. Be safe, everybody. Hope to catch you on the airways in 73.